Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all of my therapy office must-haves. Now, I was inspired to make this video based off of a Reddit thread that I found talking about therapists' different recommendations for what they could not live without in their therapy offices. And even though I am remote, my sister-in-law is graduating this May with her degree as an LPC, and I was looking for some gift ideas for her. So then I was getting to thinking, like, these ideas are amazing. I kind of want to make a video about this because as a remote therapist, I do have some office must-haves. But when I worked in person, I had even more. So I'm going to touch on things that you could either use from home if you are a remote therapist, or you could have in your therapy office in all different kinds of environments, whether you work in private practice or a mental health agency. So stick around if this sounds interesting to you. Hi, my name is Alyssa Powers, and I created this YouTube channel to teach you the things that grad school didn't so you can thrive as a mental health professional. If you like content that is specifically made for therapists, I would love it if you would subscribe and stick around. Let's get right into the very first thing, and the thing that I decided to order for my sister-in-law for her graduation gift, and this was the number one recommendation that the therapists of Reddit had to give, which is a feelings wheel pillow. I love this so much. It's such a great idea, and I had not thought of this. When I was in my therapy office, I did have like a love seat and some pillows, and then I sat in a chair across, like kind of diagonal from it. But I love this idea of just having a pillow like this on the couch that your clients sit on, because I feel like so many of my clients like to grab and hold the pillows, and then they could kind of just use this or be prompted to use this if they're having a hard time coming up with the description of how they're feeling. I just feel like this is like perfect. Even as a therapist, being able to see all these words, like, oh, it sounds like you were feeling disrespected, or it sounds like you were feeling worried, overwhelmed. Like, there's just great feeling words that we don't often think about. So number one, and this was, I think, $12, and this was one of like the bigger sizes, and I just put a pillow, like the stuffing that I already had. So I think this is a great idea for a therapy office. Okay, now number two, kind of obvious. I think that this goes without saying, but fidget toys. Specifically, fidget toys that you can keep clean and sanitized. This is kind of a bad example of that. This is the Nido ball, but it kind of collects like dust and hair. But it could be rinsed off really easily if it doesn't get punctured. So I used to have one of these, even a bigger one of these in my office, and I did have a client that punctured it and it had to get thrown out, but it was very, very popular. So this can be great. I personally have this Ono roller that it's kind of marketed as like an adult fidget toy. I use this in session when I'm on video calls, and it's nice because I can just hold it down low and like they don't know that I'm playing with it, but it just helps me to like not get so restless. And then I have been loving my silly putty. I just found this in my old like little office cabinet that's in our basement now. This used to be in my therapy office back in the day, but I love this silly putty. It's better than slime because it's not messy. One time I did have this melt. I was in session with a client that I had seen for like years, and it melted randomly. I guess I was holding it, so was my client, but we were both playing with silly putty and mine just decided to melt on me. So be forewarned, I was playing with it a little too much maybe. But there are so many great fidget toys out there. I mean, all kinds of things that you could want. I think specifically if you work with kids, they're more open to using like childlike fidgets, but I think if you work with adults, having things that are still sensory but are a little less obvious can be good, because like an adult isn't always going to want to play with, silly putty, Play-Doh, holds like a squishmallow. They're going to want something that looks a little more adult because they just are. So something like this can be great, but there are so many fidgets out there. So I really do. I love this. I think this is really fun. Okay, number 3 is a whiteboard. I personally did actually have a whiteboard in my office. I didn't utilize it a ton. I'm not super like psychoeducational, but a whiteboard can be great if you're walking a client through something, or you want them to get all of their thoughts out, or you want to come up with a plan together, or just making visuals for them. If you have a client that's a really visual learner, or if you are really good at drawing things out, writing things out, being concise in that way, then I think a whiteboard, a small one, could be perfect for you. Number 4, and I love this idea. This would depend on what kind of setting you're in, but a therapist said that they had a coffee table in front of the client's couch, and they had a puzzle at all times that was just laid out. And they said so many clients would end up setting a puzzle during their session. And I just love that idea, because a lot of people feel really intimidated by just sitting and talking and, that eye contact and kind of having like nothing to do with their hands. So I love that a puzzle is not only something to do with your hands, but it's also somewhere to look. I think that can really ease a lot of anxiety and tension for a potential client. Number 5 is to have an electric tea kettle and an assortment of teas in your office. I love this idea. I think having tea or any kind of cozy drink in your office is a great thing for not only your clients, but also for you. I know we had a whole kind of coffee bar area at the time. I was working with a lot of teens and kids, so we weren't exactly into coffee with them, but it could be nice to have like herbal teas, chamomile teas, things like that that are just soothing and relaxing. Okay, number 6 might be a tad controversial, but I haven't heard this before, and I kind of thought this was a unique idea. Someone said that they had a speaker that they would play really like soft, relaxing music, like jazz, or just like having a background kind of noise. I think that's unique. I don't know that that would work for everyone, because I do think it could be quite distracting for some clients, but I feel like music can be really soothing and healing. So I'd like to hear your opinion. Would you put music in your office or not? Number 7, and this is specific to teens and kids more so, but having things like Uno, decks of cards, Jenga, string for friendship bracelets, adult coloring books, crayons, all kinds of craft materials is a huge hit to have in your office, because as previously stated, it's so nice to have something to look at. It's soothing to create something, and it just can feel like a little extra moment of self-care for your client. And then number 8, this might be obvious, but having a clock that you can see and that your client can see is really key. I know I had a clock that was next to my clients on a little side table, and then next to me, I had a clock that they could see, because a lot of clients would get really, really lost in the whole like getting it all out. They would lose track of time. It would feel like it went by super quickly. So I would always say during our first session, like, this clock is here not to make you feel rushed, but just so you can keep track of time, so you can get through everything that you want to get through. And then of course, as the therapist, you want to start like winding the session down when you get about 5 minutes till. So you of course need a clock that you can see. And I think it's better to have a clock that is in your line of sight than like going like this. Now, the next section of office must-haves are specific to things for the therapist. So that last list was more like things you can use with clients and things that of course a therapist could also benefit from. But now I want to talk specifically about the therapist, because so many therapists work really long hours and feel very burnt out at the end of the day. So anything you can do to make your time with clients a little more restorative to you as well is just a great thing. So number one, and this is my biggest tip, get a comfortable chair for you to sit in. Do not skimp on a chair. Get an ergonomic chair that you feel like you could sit in for hours and be comfortable. When I was starting out, I got this like $150 Walmart chair. It was like cream colored and velvet. It was really low to the ground. It was the most uncomfortable chair for my back. I don't know how I didn't put it together, but I look back and I'm like, how did I do that? I ended up selling it on Facebook Marketplace and eventually getting like an actual like lazy boy, like small lazy boy recliner chair that was able to, what's that called? Rock. It was like a rocking chair. But no matter what your preference is, I know some clinicians that sit in like an office chair that's ergonomic. Some people, I know my one of my old coworkers also like to sit in a rocking chair because then you have that movement. Whatever your dream chair is, I feel like that is a great splurge because you will be spending so much time in that chair. The next thing is having something like a Theragun, some sort of back massager. This is like the bougiest thing. This is something that my husband really is the one that wanted, even though I do absolutely love this. It's great. We use it almost every day. I'm not saying you need to go out and buy a super expensive back massager, but having something to help massage your back is going to be key, because I cannot be the only one with back problems. My back even hurts sometimes from just sitting, in my office chair working remotely. So I would definitely say having something that helps with your back. And then my third thing for therapists to have in their office would be a yoga mat to also be able to stretch in between sessions, or even if you have like a cancellation, to be able to just lay down flat on a yoga mat or lay down with your feet up can be, oh my gosh, so nice. And you want to make the most of it when you have a cancellation if you're not drowning in client notes. But I would say having a yoga mat and a back massager will keep you sane. And then number 4 for therapists, having protein-rich snacks. So I think the stereotype is like, therapists are shoving a granola bar in their mouth as they're running to the bathroom and as they're trying to like check their phone real quick all between session. And yes, unfortunately, you usually only have a few minutes, but having protein-rich snacks is going to keep you tided over, keep your mind sharp, and help you to just focus so much better. I know for me, if I don't prioritize having protein, I don't feel good. And I used to work from like 1 o'clock to 7. And on my drive home, I would be like so starving from my office. And I had like a 35 to 40 minute drive. I just needed to have more protein, and I did not realize it at the time. So being a therapist, it's kind of hardcore. It's kind of like you're almost like an athlete of active listening, and you really need your mind to be sharp as well as like fueling your body, because all of the mind-body connection is one big circuit. So having protein-rich snacks. And then my last thing is to have a white noise machine. I think that it can be helpful to have a white noise machine right outside of your door. A lot of clinicians put a white noise machine right outside of their door to kind of block the people passing by from hearing the session. I know for me at my old office, we had an air vent where my coworker and I that had offices next to each other, we could just hear everything. And then our clients could hear the other clients. So I actually had to have a white noise machine inside of my office going at all times. I just kind of had kind of like a fan noise that was just a low hum, and that fixed the problem. But I do think most clinicians end up needing some sort of white noise machine at some point. So that is something good to keep in mind. Now, I wanted to just throw out a couple things that you do not want to have in your office, just as a little caveat. I think that it should be obvious, but the first thing is don't have pictures of your family. Just for your own privacy and for like transference that can happen with clients. Like if they see these pictures of like, oh, a really happy seeming family and they're coming in because they're going through a divorce. I don't know. It's just like not the place for it. There's so many more reasons than just that, like your general privacy. And I have seen some clinicians that have family pictures up and I'm like, what is your reasoning for that? Like you could have those anywhere else, like have them in your house, put them all over your house. I just feel like your clients don't need to see that. And there's no like ethical rule that you can't, but I don't think it's in good taste. And then another thing is having anything that's really strongly scented. So like I love a candle, I love an essential oil machine, I love all the smells, but when you're in an office all day, you kind of become immune to the smells, and then a client walking in will smell it and be like, oh my gosh, it's so strong. So I had made that mistake one too many times. I know that I had a client once be like, can you please turn your diffuser off? It's so strong. And I was like, oopsie, I love the smell, but they did not. So really, I would stay away from anything scented, and just having like an air purifier could be a great thing. So just a little caveat. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you did, please give me a comment below and tell me what your office must-have is, especially if it was not on the list. I would absolutely love to hear from you. That is my last thing. I hope that you found this video helpful. I would love it if you would leave me a comment below and tell me what your therapy office must-have is, especially if it was not on this list. I think it would be fun to compare. And if you like this kind of content, please subscribe. I make YouTube videos every Monday about some sort of topic that is applicable to the mental health field. And I would love it if you would stick around. I'll see you next time. Bye.